Excellent. I did get a note from Cindy Butts that she is not able to attend today. Wendy
Okay,
Clark is going to join if she can. She has a conflict right now.
okay,
So the rest of the roll call then, Heidi DeWeingart,
I'm here.
Kylie Gosselin,
Kylie's, convening that conference now, the Affordable
Okay.
Conference, so maybe she's got another, a conflict, not sure.
got it.
Okay.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Here.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Oh, boy.
Greg Ugalde.
Present.
Greg, is that enough? Is that a quorum?
I believe 3 makes a quorum.
3, so Sayla, well, Lisa didn't answer. Is she on?
But you count.
Okay, good, that's good. All right, so we got Sayla and Greg, and maybe Lisa will. She didn't say she was not going to be here.
That's it, to my knowledge, correct.
Okay, okay, great. All right, so we have a good agenda today, and our first action item is the oh, I see, Lisa just joined. Hi, Lisa. Welcome. So our first action item is the resolution regarding the financing of Hills Central Phase 1, which is in New Haven, and to be presented by Carol. Is Carol on?
Carol, are you muted?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, there we go.
That took a second. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The resolution before you is, oh, okay, a little bit of a feedback there. So the resolution before you is seeking authorization to approve taxable bond proceeds to fund a permanent mortgage loan in an amount up to $12.5 million and CMF proceeds in an amount up to $1 million to fund the new construction of a 64-unit mixed income development in New Haven. The proposed mortgagor is HC1, an affiliate of Westmount Development Group, whose principal is Rick Ross. The permanent loan shall accrue interest at a rate of up to 7.515% and be fully amortizing with a term of 35 years. The CMF loan proceeds will fund a construction to permanent loan. During the 30-month construction period, the loan shall accrue interest at a rate not to exceed 3%, payable interest only during the construction term. And during the permanent term, the loan would accrue interest at a rate of 1%, payable with up to 25% of available cash flow. The CMF loan will be secured by a subordinated second priority mortgage lien on the development. The project was awarded 2022 LIHTC credits, and the placed in service deadline is December of 2024. Hill Central is an existing fully occupied 72-unit Section 8 development located in the center of the Hill neighborhood. The redevelopment will be completed in 2 phases. This phase calls for the demolition and replacement of 32 apartments and the addition of 32 new apartments for a total of 64 apartments. There are 51 affordable apartments and 13 market rate apartments. 13 of the apartments are set aside for households at or below 30% of the AMI. 26 apartments are set aside for households at or below 50% AMI. 12 apartments are set aside for households below 60% AMI, and there are 13 market rate apartments. 13 of the apartments are set aside for supportive housing for residents identified as homeless or chronically homeless. Development will have an elderly preference for 22 units. However, this is a preference and not a restriction. The preference was imposed by the city planning department. All 51 affordable apartments will benefit from a Section 8 subsidy. The long-term Section 8 subsidy contract ensures that the existing residents will continue to pay 30% of their income towards rent, and no existing resident will experience a rent increase. The 32 existing 3 and 4 bedroom apartments will be replaced 1-for-1 with a total of 18 3-bedroom apartments and 14 4-bedroom apartments. An additional 24 1-bedroom apartments and 8 2-bedroom apartments will be added for a total of 64 new apartments. The site is currently improved with 72 townhouse style apartments, which were built circa 1980. Many systems are outdated. The building is not handicap compliant. Building replacement will ensure that the project is viable for at least another 40 years. It will improve the standard of living for the residents, reduce the operating cost and tenant living cost, and contribute to the affordable housing stock by doubling the unit count on the 2.47 acre site. For this phase, 8 townhouses will be raised and 7 townhouses and 1 3-story building will be built on the 2.47 acre site. The 3-story building will have elevated access to the 2nd and 3rd floors. This building will also have a solar panels, which is projected to provide approximately 48% of the energy use for all interior common area lighting and exterior site lighting. There will be washer and dryer connections in each apartment in the townhouse style buildings. All apartments will have a dishwasher. The apartments on the 1st floor of the 3-story building will also have washer and dryer connections, while the 2nd and 3rd floor apartments will have common washers and dryers. The townhouse style buildings will feature 3 and 4 bedrooms with a 2nd full bathroom. The 3-story building will include 529 square feet of retail space on the 1st floor. The commercial space will be leased by Columbus House, who is the supportive housing partner. They will be utilizing it as a coffee shop that will be staffed by clients living at the property, as well as others in the community. The relocation calls for the existing residents to remain on site during construction. Through attrition, 8 of the existing apartments are now vacant. The existing building at 550 Howard Avenue, which is now vacant, will be demolished and 26 new apartments will be built on that parcel. The existing 26 residents will then move into the newly constructed units. The projected time frame for this first phase is 10 months. The remaining buildings will then be demolished and 38 new apartments will be constructed for the new residents.
And that's phase 2. Is that what you're talking about?
So no, this is phase 1. For phase 1, 32 apartments will be demolished. And so,
Okay. And
there-
64 new ones will be built.
yes,
Got it. What's phase 2? How many units in there?
that one is still in the early development phase. We don't have any information yet about
Okay,
that second phase.
okay.
The development team all have substantial experience with CHFA financed project. The development team is comprised again of Westmount Development Group. The builder is Enterprise. The architect is Newman Architect, and the property manager is Westmount, which is Westmount Management, which is affiliated with the development group. Rick Ross is a Connecticut-based developer who developed and owned several LIHTC funded projects, including Forest Court, 24 Colony, and Chamberlain Heights. CHFA's current total exposure to Westmount Development Group totaled $15,979,000. $420, and all loans are current. Enterprise Builder has several decades of experience constructing CHFA financed projects. Newman Architects, a Connecticut-based firm, recently designed and provided construction oversight for Forest Court, the 2020 TEB funded project, Mill at Killingly, which was a 2018 9% project, and 24 Colony, which was a 2014 9% LIHTC project. The property manager, Westmount, manages all the property for the developer entity. All of the properties are compliant with CHFA requirements. Additional financing includes LIHTC equity of approximately $14,663,000, energy rebate of $334,632. DOH is providing flex financing of $2,831,200. DOH and DOH home funds totaling $2.3 million. Developer equity it totals $1,777,917, and there's existing property reserve of $150,000. The total developer fee is $4,027,02 and $4,027,02. The cash portion of the developer fee is $2,537. And $1,489,631 is deferred. The interest rate for the CHFA loan will be locked at the time of the construction loan closing, and the CHFA permanent loan will be funded no later than 30 months post-construction completion. The construction loan closing is currently projected to occur in the early spring of 2023, with a 19-month completion timeframe for fall of 2024. At construction completion prior to the permanent closing, CHFA will re-underwrite the deal to confirm the income and expenses and the debt service coverage. The proceeds of the CMF loan will be dispersed during construction, and CHFA may enter into an intercreditor agreement with TD Bank, the construction lender, to establish the priority of the CMF loan during construction, which may be subordinated to the construction loan. No proceeds of the permanent loan will be dispersed during construction. The total TDC is $36,446,900, or approximately $569,483 per apartment, and $242,947 per bedroom. The hard cost is $368,097 per apartment and $157,055 per bedroom. The hard costs are being impacted by extraordinary factors, including federal Davis-Bacon wage rates, the demolition costs for the 8 existing buildings, environmental abatement costs, and the elevator and solar panel for the 3-story building. These extraordinary costs total approximately $1.7 million. With the exclusion of the cost for these extraordinary design elements, the hard cost per apartment is $334,108 and $138,576 per bedroom. An analysis of developments in the CHFA portfolio that include Davis-Bacon wages through 2020 shows that the hard cost per apartment is approximately $304,746 and $152,190 per bedroom. The TDC is also being impacted by the high financing costs due to the rising interest rate environment. The projected interest cost for the construction loan is approximately $1.3 million, which equates to $20,000 per apartment. The development will achieve several policy goals in the 2020 QAP. It promotes economic integration with the unit mix that will include 13 market rate apartments. The development is designed to passive housing standards to achieve energy efficiency measures that will generate utility cost savings. Another policy goal is the opportunity characteristics that include access to higher education, as it's in close proximity to Gateway Community College. And it also has above average jobs to population ratio. The project is also TOD, as it's located less than half a mile from Union Station. Additionally, the economic model developed by DECD projects that the project will generate approximately $7.45 million of new economic activity in 2022 and 125 new jobs. The repayment risk for the permanent loan is moderate, as the primary source of repayment for the permanent loan will be revenue generated from the 20-year project-based Section 8 HAP contracts. CHFA will have no construction completion risk. There will be no disbursement of the permanent loan proceeds during construction. The permanent loan proceeds will be advanced as a one-time disbursement at the permanent loan closing after the property has achieved 100% qualified occupancy of the LIHTC units and achieve a 1.115 debt service coverage for 90 days consecutively. 100% of the construction loan, 100% retirement of the construction loan is a prerequisite for any disbursement of the CHFA loan proceeds. While continued rising inflation may impact TDC and create a gap, the cash portion of the developer fee, which is approximately $2,537,371, can fund cost overruns. There's also a construction contingency of $1.2 million. Finally, the construction lender TD Bank and the syndicator Richmond Group are experienced funders of LIHTC transactions funded by CHFA. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm curious, Carol, as to they're both of this project and the next one are both being the construction financing is being provided by TD Bank, which I would think is something we would have liked to have done. So how is it? Are we just not competitive, or is TD being, extremely competitive or aggressive in their pricing? So how does this happen?
So yeah, I mean, New Haven is a very hot CRA market, so there is a lot of interest in projects located in New Haven. TD Bank is participating in the syndicator's investment portfolio. So they're both investing at the LIHTC in the LIHTC fund, as well as being a construction lender, and that does allow them to be more competitive than CHFA.
Well, what would we have priced the construction loan at?
Well, our pricing equates essentially to the pricing for the TD Bank construction loan, but because TD is participating in the investor fund, they are then able to provide a higher pricing on the LIHTC equity.
Yeah, Heidi, the pricing on this is 96 cents, which is pretty high. We've seen this in a couple of instances where you have the lender participating in the investment. So they're able to provide financing on the construction side that's at or better than what we can offer, but they're also enhancing the raise on the equity purchase. So it's a package deal.
I get it. And Richmond, we've done a lot. We know them well. So they're each benefiting each other, I guess is what's
Yes.
happening.
Yes.
So do we want to be more aggressive? I mean, you know, I know we can't, you know, buy into the syndication, but, you know, do we want to think about, I mean, it is our goal to make loans and, you know, we're losing them. So I don't know whether we want to take that offline or whether you've thought about, you know, whether.
We've actually thought about it. I think I'll let Hazim speak up too if he wants to, but I think from my perspective, you know, we have to sort of moderate the amount of construction, monitoring, oversight, risk we want to take.
Mhm.
And we want to be able to partner with entities that are going to enhance, as Pat was saying, the deal economics. We are the permanent lender, which ultimately is how CHFA, you know, makes sort of stays in business is through the earnings, right? Through the servicing revenue, the spread on the, you know, between a borrowing and lending rate. So I think this is actually a really good partnership because it allows us to focus on the deals that really need our oversight during construction, the 4% deals, other deals where they don't get this kind of pricing benefit, and it allows some of these deals to happen with lenders that can oversee them and provide better pricing.
Okay, good point. Thank
I
you.
think it's a win-win, actually.
Great.
Agreed.
Heidi, can I ask a question? It's Lisa.
Sure. Always.
Thank you. Just wondering, with regard to elderly preference, first off, thank you. That was a great presentation. But with regard to elderly preference, how does that work in practice in this instance?
So the 19 of the subsidies are being provided by New Haven Housing Authority. And the New Haven Housing Authority will then place residents on their waiting list in the 19 of the units. Those 19 units, the city of New Haven will then have the option to house elderly residents that are on their waiting list.
So does that mean that it's really up to the New Haven Housing Authority as to how that preference plays out?
Yes, yes. And the
Okay.
building again is elevator accessed to the second and third floor to allow for elderly residents to to utilize those units. But it is going to be up to the city of New Haven to select residents for the homeless units.
And then just one additional question, because
Sure.
I do see that Greg has his hand up, but just quickly, is the rent that will be paid by Columbus House for the commercial space, is that somehow subsidized or are they paying what we believe is fair market rent? Just a question.
So the rent is not being underwritten for the financing structure. And the rent will be based on whatever the market can bear. I don't have the terms of the proposed lease agreement, but I imagine because it's Columbus House, a nonprofit partner, that the rents will likely be not subsidized, but below market.
For the coffee shop.
Just for the coffee shop, yes.
Right. But if it's below market, then who makes up for that?
So again, the rental revenue is not being underwritten. It's not the rental revenue that's being generated by the coffee shop would not necessarily support the repayment of the permanent loan, and it doesn't present a risk to CHFA. The project, I guess, would be the answer to that, the general operations of the project. But again, the coffee shop will be hiring the residents, so it will generate that additional benefit for that subsidized rent.
No, absolutely. It sounds like a great project. I was just wondering about the numbers, so thank you for that.
So when you said that our funds won't be dispersed until they've established the cash flow and it meets a 1.15 debt coverage, I think you said, you're not taking into account any revenues from the coffee shop or
No.
any ancillary
No,
revenues?
no.
Okay, so it just it just goes to the owner for whatever, however much it is.
Well, to the extent that it goes to the owner, CHFA will have 25% of that cash flow, the net cash
Excellent.
flow.
Right.
Okay, yeah,
So
okay. Got it.
Greg has his hand up.
Just a quick question regarding the homeless, how we're addressing that. So I look and I guess the lowest band that's at 30% of AMI, is that where the 13 homeless are addressed?
yes, yes, those are the homeless units. But again, they will have a Section 8 subsidy and will only be paying 30% of their income, if any.
Thank you.
So I get, you did a really good job at addressing the cost structure, because it did seem like we keep going higher and higher and higher on the per unit costs. And so that was really interesting to see what the average has been. It's just amazing, shocking to have a unit cost of over $500,000, but it doesn't seem any way around it.
The high financing costs, Davis-Bacon wages, those are two, I would say, extraordinary factors.
Yeah, and we haven't seen any abatement in the industry in terms of construction costs. We continue to see increases in different sectors, and it's continued to drive the cost of doing these projects up. So I think this is something we're going to be faced with, at least in the short term, until these prices start to come to start to abate again. And we keep our eyes on it, and we're constantly looking to try to find new ways to bring the total cost down. So it's not easy.
No, I know. And aside from building new units, I mean, the cost to demolish, rent, reestablish the environment, et cetera, those costs are just high.
Yeah.
Housing
They are.
affordability is out of control,
Yeah,
right? I
it
mean,
really
everywhere
is.
we look, and it's
Yeah.
not getting any better. I mean,
Right.
we could have one of those retreats just on that,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's-
very serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're glad to hear you guys that you guys understand what's going on out there, because it's been a big challenge. The gaps that we're seeing are tremendous, and we're trying to be as creative as we can to keep the flow of new affordable units going. So it's
Well,
tricky.
5 years ago, we were screaming about a $350,000 per unit cost. Now we're almost
Yeah.
double. It's
Yeah, well, the two of the presentations today have a bunch of extraordinary circumstances around them, including demolition and abatement. So the good thing to note about this is it's still in line in terms of the debt per unit and the debt per property. I think our LTV is still very strong on this, and so there's a lot of subsidy that's coming into both of these projects that we're talking about today to help allay some of those costs.
right.
And if I could just add really quickly that there are 18 3-bedrooms and 14 4-bedroom units. So the larger units are also, they tend to cost more.
Okay, anybody else? Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Thanks, Greg. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you both. Okay, Dawn, maybe.
Sure. Heidi DeWeingart,
Hi.
Kylie Gosselin,
Yes.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, next up on our agenda is the resolution regarding financing and reservation of low-income housing tax credits for the Valley Townhouse project, also located in New Haven. And hopefully Liz is on the line to present.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
This has some similarities to the one we just discussed. Valley Townhouses is an existing 40-unit townhouse complex in New Haven. It was built in 1974, so it is old, and it is in need of many improvements. The extent of these upgrades make rehab cost prohibitive. Also, there are soil contamination issues, and because the Housing Authority of New Haven owns this property, they must remediate. And so this has become a complete demolition, remediation, and new build project. Financing includes 9% LIHTC equity with taxable bond financing. Again, TD Bank will be the construction lender and CHFA will be the permanent lender only. So we're requesting approval of a leasehold mortgage up to $6.2 million for permanent financing. CHFA is also providing opportunity funds for gap financing up to $4.374 million. Total CHFA funding will be $10,574,000. Now, again, CHFA funding will take place after construction completion, no later than 24 months from construction loan closing, but we do offer 6-month extension options for a fee. CHFA will have no construction risk exposure. We're also requesting approval for a return of the 2021 9% tax credits and a new allocation for the 2022 credits. And as an exchange, this will not affect CHFA's 2022 tax credit ceiling. The parties involved are well known to CHFA and include Housing Authority of New Haven and its related entity, the Glendower Group. The Michaels Group is joint venturing with Glendower as the developer. The architect is Paul Bailey with over 30 years experience with CHFA properties. The GC is Montagno Construction, a company also experienced with CHFA projects. Financing, the construction will be funded by TD Bank. Perm financing includes the CHFA permanent loan up to $6.2 million, opportunity funds up to $4,374,000, a sponsor loan of $3.1 million, GP loan of $1.9 million, equity funds approximately $8.3 million, and a deferred developer fee. The project, there will be 1 community building and 9 2- to 3-story townhouse buildings for a total of 40 townhouses. This one offers 2, 3, 4, and 5-bedroom units. The complex has some rare large units. There are just 275 4-bedroom units in the CHFA portfolio and only 17 5-bedroom units in the CHFA portfolio. This project serves very low and low-income residents with 19 units reserved for under 25% AMI and 13 for under 50% AMI. And there will be 8 market rent units. 8 of the units will be supportive housing with New Reach Inc. acting as the service provider. They will be converting 32 of the 40 units from public housing annual contribution contract to the RAD PBV. Again, the other 8 will be market rate units. This property in its current state is awful. It's very sad. It does not appear to be habitable. It is boarded up, except for there are 7 families still remaining to be relocated. It will result in providing 40 families with improved living conditions, 32 of which are very low-income families. Now, the issues with this project, they do want to close by December 6th. They are on schedule with TD Bank to close. We do not anticipate this an issue with CHFA. We should be able to close just by providing our commitment letter and an ELIC. Another issue, there are possible cost overruns, of course, with this remediation and demolition. Mitigated, of course, CHFA is not the construction lender and their GC is very confident that they can bring it in within budget. And of course, Housing Authority of New Haven is a moving to work agency with the ability to use federal funds to cover any shortfall. And of course, the issue that we just discussed, this does have very high project costs. The total development costs are slightly over $26 million or $650,000 a unit. The 10 separate buildings and the large unit sizes contribute to this. In addition to the multiple buildings and the large units, There are a number of other expenses contributing to the high costs, including the soil abatement, the demolition and the remediation is approximately $640,000. Davis Bacon wages, we estimate they increased costs by over $1.1 million. The passive house design, about $873,000. The utilities demolition is over $740,000, an admin fee of $645,000. So and then they're further inflated by a $1.9 million acquisition cost of land. This is offset by a GP loan of the same amount, but it does inflate the total development costs. These expenses, we estimate increased costs over $5.7 million. So the adjusted total development cost of $20 million works out to $506 a unit, or $153,000 a bedroom, or $341,000 a square foot. And I got a little more comfortable with the high cost, looking at it on a per square foot basis. I know houses in New England are currently being built in the 450 to 550 per square foot range. The cost per square foot on a national level is $398 and $435 in the East for the construction of apartment complexes. And the adjusted cost per square foot is $341 for this project, or the true cost is $438. So it compares well to the national average and the average in the East. And that's it. Any questions?
Hey, Heidi, you're on mute.
Sorry, there was a comment, converted awaiting transfer. I had never seen that terminology. What does that mean?
They did it as a global portfolio with the conversion from the public housing to the RAD. And they allowed 8 of it's a 40-unit complex, and they allowed 8 to go into another project. So they are just converting 32. Perhaps, Joe, maybe, I don't know if you want to add anything to that?
Sure. With many of these RAD transactions, housing authorities are held to a one-to-one replacement for existing affordable units. And by building in 8 basically unqualified or market rate units, they were able to score additional points in the 9% round, but by putting those 8 additional units into another project, they met the 1-for-1 replacement with HUD's approval.
I'm not sure I understand that, but is it okay with us?
Yes, generally the 1-for-1 replacement satisfies CHFA from a policy standpoint, and also, especially in a very hot market like New Haven, having some unqualified units would also, provide housing opportunities for individuals or families that just miss the income limits in the locales, and still provide an opportunity for the affordable housing.
Okay, thank you.
It's just interesting, because when we start talking numbers like this is more of a comment and an observation than a question, but I know that the cities and the housing authorities get locked into certain situations, and we have to try to raise the property and just bring it back. But when you start talking about 650,000 per unit and so on, and then try to adjust it there so you can at least talk about it and try to make sense of it, at some point you're talking multiples of families that we could probably place if we weren't locked into certain sites and we found different trade-offs, because these numbers are just through the roof. I mean, pretty soon we're going to be talking about replacing families for $1 million. And at some point there's better ways to do it. But I understand. I mean, all the math is worked out on this. There's reasons why they're forcing it to replace these 40, get 40 families in, and 32, especially very low income. That's great. But, I mean, you could put them in Taj Mahals, I mean.
Yeah.
Greg, we've had that very same conversation, even including the $1 million mark that seems to be looming in front of us. It's something that CHFA staff is cognizant of and we talk about, and it's probably something we'll have to take up with you guys at some point and discuss what our tolerance levels are. When do we say enough is enough? Again, this is a highly subsidized property. Our debt as it relates to the total development cost is good. And as a function of value, it's also very good. So I think for our participation in it, we're at a good level, but these costs are getting to a point where I think we need to discuss them.
Pat, that's a great point, especially when we have to replace municipal infrastructure as well. You know, some of the water and sewer,
Yes.
you know, with municipal requirements for ductile iron. I mean, just the costs are staggering.
Okay, anybody else? Questions, comments? No? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve?
Heidi, holding my nose, I'll make the motion to approve. No, in all seriousness, the numbers do work for us, and I feel good from where we sit. You know, you just have to kind of use blinders. maybe.
Unless we're given land and it's in the middle of the boondocks, this is unfortunately, it seems like what we're gonna have to work with, right? Because otherwise,
We're not left with much. There's not a whole lot. It's a very competitive market trying to find these properties.
Right.
And when you have this older product, and by the way, Liz, you said this is old because it was built in the 70s. Well, I was built in the 60s, so.
I thought the same thing.
all right. I was built in the 50s, so. All right, Greg grudgingly gave us a motion. I'll second the motion. Dawn, can we call the roll, please?
Of course. Heidi Weingart,
Aye.
Kylie Gosselin,
Yes.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Lisa Tupper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes
Okay.
unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, next up on our agenda is the resolution regarding the financing of Lascana Homes in Orange, and Debbie Alter to present.
Good afternoon, everyone. This request is to approve $1 million in Opportunity Fund proceeds for a construction to permanent second lien mortgage to Lascana Homes of Orange LLC. The loan will have a 24-month construction term and a maximum permanent term of 40 years. During the construction period, the loan shall accrue interest at a rate not to exceed 1% and is payable interest only. And during the permanent term, the loan will accrue interest at a rate of 1% and will be paid with 25% of available cash flow following payoff of the deferred developer fee. This development is the new construction of 46 units of affordable housing comprised in 7 buildings in Orange, Connecticut. Orange is considered an opportunity area as it only has 1.35% affordable housing. There will be 21 one-bedroom, 21 two-bedroom, and 4 three-bedroom units. 28 units will be targeted for households between 30% and 50% of AMI. 8 units will be targeted to households at or below 80% of AMI, and 10 units will be targeted to households at or below 100% of AMI. Amenities will include a community room, and all apartments will include home office space to facilitate work from home. The development will be built to achieve National Green Building Standard Emerald certification. 10 units will provide housing for intellectually disabled clients of the Department of Developmental Services, and those units will come with rental subsidies from the state. This development was awarded 9% tax credits in 2021, but has not been able to close due to a funding gap, which was caused by rising material prices. This gap has been filled by additional funding from DOH, as well as this Opportunity Fund loan. And in return, the development will create workforce housing by taking 10 units that were previously designated as unrestricted market rate and restricting them for households at or below 100% of AMI. The developer is Gyroscope Development Group, which is an entity formed by Carol Martin and Bruce Whitaker. The general contractor will be Haynes Construction and the architect is Paul Bailey Architects. The site is located off the Boston Post Road and is in walking distance to a bus stop. The total development cost is $20,852,397 or $453,313 per unit. As mentioned, this is new construction with very little environmental work, so there's a huge difference in cost. The construction costs are $15,249,414 or $331,509 per unit. In addition to the $1 million opportunity fund loan and the 9% tax credit equity, sources of funds include $3.6 million in flex funds from DOH, as well as $3 million in federal funding from DOH. There's also a deferred developer fee, energy rebates, rent proceeds that will be collected during construction, and a permanent loan from Brookline Bank. Brookline Bank is also the tax credit investor. Strengths include the creation of 46 energy efficient units of affordable family housing in an area with much less than 10% affordable housing. The development team is very strong and the location is excellent, being in an opportunity area as well as close to many commercial businesses that offer opportunity for employment. Challenges are the inflation and other market conditions that could affect costs during construction, but this is mitigated by the experience of the general contractor who has established relationships with suppliers. They have been working steadily through the pandemic and have successfully navigated through supply chain issues already. Are there any questions?
I don't recognize the developer name. Have we done any business with them?
So Carol Martin is the executive director of both the Westport and the Fairfield Housing Authorities. And she also formerly worked for Conover. So she herself is experienced.
Yeah.
And Bruce Whitaker is with Millennium Consulting and Management Company and has also done a lot of work with CHFA.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, for explaining that too about the 10 units being now at 100% of area median income. That's very creative and also very helpful because that'll be working. You know, those are working families now that'll get units that otherwise wouldn't have been able to.
Absolutely. And on the front page of the memo, I think there was a chart that showed the difference between the market rate rents and the proposed affordable rents.
It's pretty significant. In a community like Orange, you're looking at a one bedroom. When we compare to CoStar, it's about a $695 savings. When you're looking at the 2 bedrooms compared to CoStar, and CoStar is the market sort of gathering the informational source, you're looking at $808 a month in savings. And when you look at the 3 bedrooms, it's a $1,532 a month savings. And this is a segment of the market that I think gets overlooked a lot, is this workforce. And I think going forward, we want to try to enhance this sort of work and provide some more of this subsidy to gain some of these workforce housing units, so we can keep the nurses and the teachers and the fire people and the police in the communities that they work. So
I think the only thing I'll add to that, and I agree, is that there's a debate about what to call it. Because technically everybody is workforce, you know, low income, middle income. People have called it different things, including the missing middle. Technically, these are not eligible for the low income housing tax credit, because even with income averaging, you only go up to 80% AMI. So it's something we're going to look at as a strategy going forward.
Good, great. Anybody else? Comments? Questions, anything? Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Lisa. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks. Was that Kylie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dawn, the roll, please.
Of course. Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Kylie Goslin,
Yes.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Lisa Tepper Bates,
Aye.
Greg Agalde.
Aye.
The vote passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Next up, a review of the minutes from last month's mortgage meeting. Anybody have any comments, changes, corrections? They looked okay to me. So hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the committee?
So moved.
Okay, I'll second them. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Reports. First up is the home ownership report, hopefully with Lisa presenting.
Good afternoon. I am going to be presenting, but I'm going to first let Kayla Giordano present on the first 5 or 6 slides because she's done a lot of research and is more familiar with the information. And then I'll take over at like the 6th slide.
Okay.
Thanks, Lisa. Good afternoon, everyone. For anyone who wasn't here last month, I'm Kayla Giordano. I'm a senior program and data analyst here in the Research, Marketing, and Outreach Department at CHFA. We've redone the Mortgage Committee report as of last month, and we're going to be starting with some market updates. And here's just a quick agenda. We'll start with an update on homeowners. So if we can flip to the next slide. So last month, we talked a lot about sort of the struggles that we're seeing in the housing market for first-time home buyers, reduced inventory, high prices, and it all seemed a little bit doom and gloom. So this month, I wanted to present some information that actually does show a little bit of a bright spot for a certain population in Connecticut, and that is existing homeowners. So while potential home buyers are still facing a continued hot market, one group that is doing well is Connecticut homeowners. On this slide here, you'll see the delinquency rates going back quite a number of years, and around the COVID-19 pandemic onset, you'll see that huge spike in delinquency. But very thankfully, we've seen that come down in all counties across Connecticut to a much more normalized level. And in some counties are actually seeing lower delinquency rates than we were at the start of 2020, which is good news for homeowners. And if we flip to the next slide, we'll see this data is really reflected in CHFA's own delinquency data. Almost 92% of the loans in our portfolio are active. And the towns that do have the highest delinquency rates are primarily located in Hartford County. And if we quickly split back to the previous slide, we'll see that really does track with what we're seeing going on outside of CHFA in the Connecticut market as a whole. You'll notice that Hartford green line there higher up. So it makes sense that we're seeing that same thing happening in CHFA's portfolio. So we can flip to the next one after this. I also wanted to give a little update on interest rates and equity for current homeowners. So 72% of homeowners in Connecticut with active mortgages right now have a rate below 4%. And that's really great. It means that homeowners have, in general, lower monthly payments. And if they happen to encounter any sort of economic hardship, their monthly payment is probably manageable enough given their low interest rate that hopefully delinquency rates should remain low. And this is going to be really beneficial to homeowners as they face rising costs in other areas as a result of inflation, such as with utility bills. Furthermore, we took a look at some CoreLogic data, and we found that as a whole, U.S. homeowners have record amounts of equity in their home, and Connecticut is no exception. They report that a year-over-year equity gain of about $54,000 for Connecticut homeowners. And when we look at Connecticut as a whole, we see that just 2% of Connecticut homeowners have negative equity in their homes. So things are going well for Connecticut homeowners, and that's the nice little bright spot in sort of the tough market conditions we're seeing. So before I hand it back over to Lisa, does anyone have any questions on those couple slides?
I don't understand the picture.
Yeah, so I'll go over it. I know this one looks pretty, but it's a little hard to understand. So on the y-axis, so where it says 20, 40, 60%, that is the percentage of homeowners. And then on the x-axis, we are looking at the number of active mortgages for that particular, originated in that particular year and month. So at the very start of this graph, we see January of 1999. So that indicates, right there, like 5% or so of active mortgages that were originated in January of 1999 have a interest rate of 9 to 10%. So that red margin. And so as you can see, as we move along that bottom line, we get closer and closer to today. And so you'll notice that as time has gone on, the colors become more of that green gradient. So that's representing that 2% to about, depending on where you're stopping, 6%. So, a big chunk of the mortgages that have been originated in the last 5-10 years, we're seeing those really light green colors, so representing homeowners that have interest rates between 3 and 4%.
Okay, that now I understand it a little better.
Not much of that blue sky though, huh, Heidi?
No.
No, yes, those are the
No, you had to be really lucky to get below 2%.
Yeah, and those are also representative of certain special programs that might be going on. Ones targeted for veterans, and then certain other programs that might offer a 0% or 1% rate.
Well, obviously, we're going to see this change significantly based on what's going on.
Yes. So as we, come back to this committee in the new year, we'll certainly, occasionally provide updates, and we can update this chart to sort of see, how things are going and where rates are.
Okay. Thank you, Kayla. Very helpful.
Thank you.
All right, Lisa, or are you still up? Okay, Lisa.
My turn. Thank
Okay.
you. So we're going back to the loan activity, and we are continuing to trend at a 43% increase from last year. But I also wanted to point out that last year we did more government than conventional financing, and this year our conventional financing is higher than our government financing. And I think that the reason for that may be, or a big reason for that, is the time to own program, because it's allowed people to put more money down to either reduce the mortgage insurance costs or helps them qualify better for conventional because they have a larger down payment where they may not have qualified otherwise. And also, of course, the lower costs, the lower mortgage insurance. So I think that could have a lot to do with it. It'll be interesting to see, how that evolves over time. But I just thought I would point that out, because I remember looking at this information and thinking we did a lot of government loans, and now I'm seeing we're doing more conventional. So I think that could be what the impact was from. And we can go to the next slide, please. We're highlighting the top lenders again here, but and we can see that, of course, First World, and they've all increased their volume quite a bit, but it almost looks like Norcom has actually almost doubled their volume from last year, which is a good thing. It's showing their commitment. And of course, Guaranteed Rate has tremendously increased their production, which we like to see. We want to see lenders that are participating on a regular basis. They know our programs, they do a good job. If you only do 1 or 2 loans a year, you're not really going to be as up to date on all of our programs. So we're happy to see that our top lenders are still our top lenders, but are even doing more. And we have lenders who are doing more business that may not have been a top lender, but that are farther up on the list of production. So that's a really good sign. If we could go to the,
Lisa, before you move off of that slide,
Sure.
could I just ask, the total mortgage didn't really increase by very much, whereas the others really did. Do you know why that's the case?
I think it took a while for them to implement time to own when it first came out. So I think that's a big part of it. Although we had it and we were ready, they had to set up their systems and they had a delay. And so they didn't get to experience as much of the fruit from that program as some of the others, because all of our top lenders are also time to own lenders.
Thanks.
Okay, next slide. And then down payment assistance, again, that volume is way up. So that's different than the time to own. That's just simply our DAP program. And that has become much more popular this year. So even setting aside the time to own, we still have people that either they may get DAP plus time to own or just DAP because they don't even qualify for time to own. But there has been a tremendous increase in interest in the programs. And next slide. Then we get to time to own. And we have had quite, I mean, this was last month, we had reservations of almost $28 million. We looked at the average reservation amount was just over 30,000 because we have the ones that went all the way to 50,000, ones that were 25,000. And then of course we reduced them based on need and income. But again, it's continuing to show that the median income for these borrowers using time to own versus not having time to own, we're really allowing people to purchase with much lower income, much higher prices. And if you look at the chart, almost 30% of our borrowers, it looks like we're in very high, that purchased in very high and high opportunity areas, which was, you know, something we really wanted to accomplish with this. Okay, next slide. And then again, our concentration is in Hartford, and then New Haven, and then London, and that's typical year over year because of the price ranges in these areas that fit our programs. So I think that what we're seeing is going to continue every time we look at this, that, you know, we're going to have a higher concentration in those areas. And then we do have, we have lent most our lending activity, 42% is to borrowers of color. So we have increased that by approximately 5% from the year before. But the difference is now there are a lot that were not reported that takes up a big percentage. So it's kind of hard to tell based on that. You know, there are some that choose not to report. There are some that we didn't gather the information, but we are requiring the information now for those that do report. The lender has to put the information in. And so therefore we should get, as time goes on, a better breakdown with less. As you could already see, we're already seeing less of not reported, but you know, we should see even less because this not reported is different than I do not wish to provide the information. Some will not provide the information, but not reported means it was left blank. And so we've really made a concerted effort to make sure that that information is being collected. Okay, next. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, next up on the agenda, SEMA presenting the multifamily activities report.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll go over the multifamily activities report. So the first page is the development spotlight. This time around, we are spotlighting Forest Court in Unionville. It is another development by Rick Ross's Westmont Development Group. We saw Hill Central that Carol just presented. This was a minor moderate rehab, family housing and 36 units. Placed in service is ongoing, and projected final closing is March of 23. Next slide. So this gives an overview of multifamily pipeline. The competitive nines, we have 16 developments that were awarded and are pending initial closing. And it amounts to about 389 in terms of million in terms of the total development cost. Projects, 9% projects under construction pending final closing are 14 with a TDC of 322.9 million. In the non-competitive, 4% and miscellaneous style applications under review are 13 developments with a projected total development cost of 368.1 million. 32 developments are under construction pending final closing, and they amount to about 807.6 million in total development cost. The third tile, the yellow one, is the SSHP CDBG capital grant projects. We have 7 developments under review pending with a TDC of 22.1 million. And we have 16 projects under construction pending final closing with a 44.9 million in TDC. And as we've seen in the past, the blue tile takes precedence over the other two in terms of the TDC, the total number of developments, and the total number of units. HTCC Open Application Awards 75, and funds are 33.8 million in that category. SSHP critical and priority needs are 19 developments with 4.2 million in grant available. And we are all prepping up for the upcoming 9% LIHTC round. Next slide. So news and insights. Staff from CHFA Tech hosted their first virtual quarterly meeting with CT-based contractors. It was very fruitful conversation. Topics included market volatility, fluctuations in the customer costs, labor shortage, supply chain concerns, and other challenges that our CT contractors are facing. Staff from multifamily attended the NERSE virtual conference, and the topics there were resident challenges, aging process, dementia, and the like. Then on the 8th of November, staff from multifamily represented CHFA on a regional agency presentation panel at the New England Affordable Housing Management Association. It was in Norwood, Mass. Other panelists were from HUD, Navigate, and the housing authorities in the Northeast region. There were others in the audience, including the owners and the management agents, and each panelist went over their respective agencies. On the 15th of November, multifamily staff presented at Conero training regarding the grievance processes. In terms of insight, end of October, CHFA leadership and staff attended the 2022 NCSHA annual conference and showplace in Houston. And a key exciting takeaway was the excitement around the Inflation Reduction Act and what it provides in terms of funding opportunities to improve resiliency, sustainability, energy efficiency in the multifamily affordable housing sector. There are it's a really excellent piece of legislation, and it will provide us the opportunity to advance our long-held priorities and get some money into the capital stack of our projects. we will likely see a lot of shift towards solar renewables. There are a lot of incentives around heat pumps, around geothermal, around energy storage. And most critically, the law eliminates the basis reduction for pairing the section 48 and the 45L credit with the housing credit. So that is going to be a game changer. And it increases the solar credits from 26 to 30%. In other news, we are continuing with the preliminary application for the 2023 9% LIHTC round. And the development engagement process was extended to November 18th. Pre-application conferences with DOH and CHFA staff are taking place following receipt of a preliminary application. Next slide. So there were 5 initial closings in October. 2 were competitive, 2 were in the non-competitive round, Antilian Manor and Avery Park. Then there were 1 SSHP closing, King's Corner, and 2 SSHP pre-transaction critical needs, Bacon Congregate and Stonecroft Village in Hebron. There were 3 final closings in October, Bloomfield Specialty, Barnum House, and 1 SSHP West Hill Gardens Congregate. And these are some projects that we are looking to get to board in the coming months. Next slide. And lastly, an upcoming transaction we look to get to board in the coming months. This time we are showcasing East Modernization. It's also called Eastern Place. Owner mortgagor is an entity formed by James Collins, East Modernization LLC. Developer is again East West Modernization. It's a moderate rehab of family development, 50 units, and all 50 of them are affordable. Some pictures and the unit mix. Any questions?
I don't hear any. Thank you, Seema.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other items to discuss?
Heidi, just one quick point on the Inflation Reduction Act. We heard Davis-Bacon brought up earlier too, and how it puts pressure, especially in New England and Connecticut specifically.
Yeah.
Not only don't we have a large workforce that's needed for a lot of these things, but it's very difficult for us to match other parts of the country that are used to using those types of wages and that kind of construction pools. So we have an uphill climb to take advantage of some of these great things that Seema's pointing out. It's going to be incumbent on us how we work it into our bidding and in the process and just getting labor in the right positions to cover this. But it's definitely an uphill climb where other people are just able to jump right in that have many more workers in the Davis-Bacon range.
Yes, Greg, and there are incentives for Davis-Bacon and for apprenticeship training. So I think that will help us also.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay, hearing none. I guess I move to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. See everybody on Thursday.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.